The things I want to say are solution-oriented.
It's most likely that no one will have enough delegates. So we'll see, but it's a long way to go. We're probably in probably just finishing halftime.
He hasn't won a single primary or caucus yet, but John Kasich hasn't terminated his presidential campaign. In fact, he's been talking about the high likelihood of a brokered convention. And there are small signs that perhaps the Ohio governor may be getting even stronger. The Real Clear Politics average of Michigan polls shows Kasich surging up 10 points since last week, but that's still 18 points behind Trump, basically tied with Ted Cruz and rising faster than both in the polls. He also got some help from a former governor, hoping to pump up Kasich's polls, standing a little more.
This is the land of opportunity. It is the greatest nation in the world, no matter what anyone says out there. And we need John Kasich to now take charge and be at the White House. And this is why I endorse John Kasich, our great governor.
In case you didn't know, that's former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course you did. He was appearing alongside Kasich while in Columbus, Ohio over the weekend. It's a state which Kasich obviously has to win as the sitting governor to have any claim of legitimacy in this race.
All right, joining us now for more on this is Congressman Robert Walker, a senior advisor for the Kasich campaign, and Newsmax chief Washington correspondent John Gizzi. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you.
All right, John, you are with the Kasich campaign in Oakland today. Give us an idea of what the current vibe is there among his supporters.
Well, actually, John, I'm 7 stories above John Kasich himself. He is just arriving at the Troy Marriott here in Oakland County, Michigan, one of the key counties in the Republican primary tomorrow. It is a sellout crowd of nearly 700 for the Lincoln Day dinner for the Oakland County Republican Party, candidate Kasich just happening to be the speaker. There is a lot of enthusiasm for him, but this is the caveat. When you ask participants who they think will win the primary tomorrow, nobody is betting. Rocky Rezkowski, that's his name, a leading party activist out here, said he hasn't made up his mind yet.
Wow.
And so we're seeing a lot of this. And remember one thing, Michigan always likes to surprise people. In 1980, George H.W. Bush beat Ronald Reagan by 2-1, defying the polls. And in 2000, John McCain beat George W. Bush, again, surprising everyone.
All right, there's the history lesson. We also noted how Kasich is surging in the Real Clear Politics average of Michigan polls, which means he's probably surging in more polls than in others. But I also want to talk about Ohio, too, Congressman Walker. Let's take a look at Ohio real quick. And according to Nate Silver's 538 blog, Kasich has a 44% chance of winning his home state of Ohio. They only give Trump a 35% chance. So let's say there is a Midwestern sweep by Governor Kasich, Congressman Walker, in both Michigan and Ohio. He's still a long way behind in the delegate count, but what does that do for the Kasich campaign?
Well, it confirms our strategy from the beginning. We knew we had to hang on through some of the early primaries and so on, and then get to the Midwest and get to some of the other states where John will run strong. In Pennsylvania, for example, my home state, the most recent poll that we have out in Pennsylvania showed Trump beginning to drop and Kasich surging there. And so we're seeing the beginnings of a campaign that is going to have an impact on the rest of the primary season.
Well, John, I know you've spoken with a lot of voters. You were in New Hampshire, you were in Iowa, you've been all over the place following this campaign. A lot of fervor behind the Trump. Let's just say we do have a brokered convention. Let's play hypotheticals here. What do you think Governor Kasich could say to those GOP insurgents who would have their hair on fire if it's somebody other than Donald Trump?
First of all, John, let's get something on the table. When you say brokered convention, that would suggest to viewers a convention in which party leaders determine the nomination. And that's not accurate. I would use the term open convention.
Open convention.
But in
or
either
convention.
Right. In either circumstance, whatever you call it, if the nominee is not decided at a convention, Governor Kasich could come here and say what he said, when I first reported on him as a possible candidate at the Christian Science Monitor breakfast last summer. I'm from Ohio, and that's an exact quote. The mother of presidents, which has gone for every winner of the White House, except one, John F. Kennedy in 1960, has got to be won by the Republicans if they are going to win in the fall. He'd be the first Buckeye State Republican on a national ticket since his predecessor, Governor John Bricker, in 1954, so he brings Ohio to the table, period.
You got to win Ohio. You got to win Ohio. That's critical. And maybe that's all he has to say. Good point there, John. Let's bring back the Congressman for one more question. I want to play a clip from Ted Cruz talking about the idea of a contested or open convention. Let's play that.
The Washington establishment is in a panic. They're confused. They don't understand what's happening. And their favorite candidates, the ones that they want to win, are not getting the votes. But if a bunch of Washington deal makers try to step in a brokered convention and steal the nomination, I think we will have a manifest uprising.
All right, so Ted Cruz using brokered convention there. But Bob, do you think Ted Cruz is saying this stuff because he knows there's no way he could win an open or contested convention?
Well, I think what he's doing is trying to set up a false scenario, and that exactly what John Gizzi has said is the case. This would be a contested convention, and let's face it, the people at that convention are going to be people who want to win in the fall. They're going to look at who has the best chance of winning in the fall by every major poll measurement, and so the guy who can beat Hillary Clinton by the biggest margins is John Kasich. As a matter of fact, there's one poll out that shows an 11-point lead for Kasich against Hillary.
If you guys want to beat Hillary Clinton, maybe that's the bumper sticker. Gentlemen, we got to run. It's been a great conversation. We'll see what happens in Michigan and in Ohio. Thanks for being with us, Bob Walker and John Gizzi.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Congressman.
All right, make sure you stay tuned tonight. Prime host J.D. Hayworth talks with Governor Kasich about a positive message on the campaign trail.
Go to these rallies and people are very, very excited about the fact that I'm positive. I mean, the downside of it is you don't get any media coverage, because if you're not calling a name, people then, they don't put you on because you're talking about a solution to a problem rather than name calling.